Hello YouTube, this is Dan. Now if you've been on my channel, you know it's entirely guns, so I decided I'm going to do a video review just to kind of mix things up so it's not super boring with just a bunch of me shooting guns and my friends shooting guns. Now this is not a PSP, it is a JXD A1000, and what that means is that it is a portable emulator. I'll get into what it emulates later, so stick around. It has a 4.3-inch screen, 0.3 megapixel camera. This is the power button right here. It has an SD card slot, a microphone, TV out, headphone jack, and that's the USB port. So you can charge from there, and you can play games. Or you can load it up with games, sorry. So here we go, let's start it up. So you hit the power button, hold it down for a little bit, power light comes on, and then it starts up. So JXD. Now, to get into the meat of it, it's emulation. So here's the main menu. So you go into games, and this emulates Game Boy, which I haven't tested yet, Game Boy Color, which is fantastic. It's not glitchy, it's not slow, the colors look great. I've only played Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, but it ran beautifully. It also plays Game Boy Advance, which is fantastic. I've played 5-6 games on it. The only game that I couldn't play was Grand Theft Auto Advance, and that's because it crashed. So when it did, I forgot to mention, has a reset button right there. Just tap that, and it resets the system, just like on, you know, a Super Nintendo, Nintendo. It also plays Nintendo Entertainment System, the first Nintendo, which I have not played yet. It plays Super Nintendo, which play amazingly well. I have played those. They play incredibly well. And it plays Sega Mega Drive. Now, that's the only system that I've had trouble with for a couple of reasons. One, it's a little bit choppy every once in a while. And also, SMD, the Sega Mega Drive, is also a Genesis. So if you played that, you know it has 3 buttons here and 3 buttons up top. And I don't exactly know how those translate over to this, and I've never played a Sega Genesis before, so I couldn't figure out the controls. That's not to say that it's impossible, I just don't know what they are. But you might not want to because they're a little bit glitchy. The frame rate lags out here and there depending on how much stuff is on the screen. But the controls are, when you figure them out, I've played Duke Nukem 3D, which I only knew 2 controls for, and that played pretty well. That game glitched out every once in a while when there was more than one enemy on the screen. It didn't glitch out, but the frame rate dropped immensely. So let's get into a game, and I will demonstrate, as I said earlier, why the joystick is a great feature. So we'll get into Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance for the Game Boy Advance. Now, I really like the second game for the PS2, Couch Co-op. It was fantastic. So here it is loading up. And I will now show you, if I can skip through these menus. Here we go. So this game does save games, and when it does save, it doesn't save on all the games, but the games that save seem to do just fine. Now, for the games that don't, you're going to have to do this. So you hit the power button, just tap it once, and that will bring up this little menu. So I may call it power button, I might call it menu, it's the same button. And let me see if I can get close. It's going to be a little bit out of focus, but this play icon that's highlighted in blue right now, that is the play, so continue playing. This little eject looking button, the arrow pointing up, that is to change games, just like ejecting a cart. This is the save game, the arrow pointing to the disc. And this is load game, this one all the way on the end. And that's the arrow pointing away from the disc. So we'll do that. You hit circle, just like on a lot of Japanese PS2, PSP games. In America, you hit the X button, but let's see if we can see that. That looks good. So now I'll be using this, and for isometrics, like this game, this joystick is amazing for that. Because you do have to hit diagonal buttons a lot, and that's hard to do on a D-pad, on a normal D-pad. So that's why I never bought these kinds of games, especially for, I do a lot of emulation on my computer already, and it's a pain in the butt to do that, even with the controller that I have for my computer. So there's that. Let's eject, and now I'll get into this is the save state, load state, all that stuff, eject button, all that stuff. So let's back out. Video playback. The playback is good. I won't really demo it right now. It can lag out, especially when you fast forward. The frame rate gets all weird and the colors look a little bit weird right when you're fast forwarding and things like that. It's not straightforward. All the buttons and what they do and all that stuff. It didn't come with a manual in English, so I can't really look it up. Now, let's talk about the SD card. Now, it has 4 GB internal memory, and then you go into setup. That's that corner right there. Now, it does come with an SD card slot, and it can go up to 32 GB, a micro SD, so the smallest one. And right now I have a 16 GB in there, and the one thing that I don't like, well, there's a few things, but I'll get into those at the end. The main thing I don't like is that when you want to switch between the internal memory and you have to switch between the internal memory and the SD card. Now, this is a problem when you want to switch really fast, but it's not a super big deal because it's really easy to switch. You select memory. Give it a second to load. Then you can switch down to SD card. There we go. And click this. Now you can choose working space or format. You have to format it for the device before you can use it. I had movies on there before for a different thing that I had, and I couldn't play them until I formatted it. And as you know, that wipes everything out. So, but when you get it, you hit working space. That'll switch it. I won't do it now. It'll switch it over to that device. So if you want to switch, just put movies on your SD card, you can. Or if you just want to use that, you can put your ROMs on there. Now I'll get into loading it up with media. Well, before that, I'll go into the menus. My menus are in English. I have seen other reviews where it said the menus were in Chinese, and that's not true for mine, but I'm not saying that's not true for theirs. Maybe because I ordered from Amazon, they did some special formatting or something where they changed the menus to English, or it's newer firmware or something like that. But that is what it is. Now, loading it with media. You can Google ROMs. If you know how to do that, just Google whatever game, then the system, then ROM at the very end, ROM. So when you plug it into your computer, it'll bring up this folder is what it looks like on here, but it'll pull it up on your computer. I'm sure it works on Mac, but I've only tried it on Linux and Windows. Now, a few things. This folder will pop up, so you can put your videos in here. You can put your games in here. Now, it does take up. You can use subfolders. It doesn't affect it in any way. It's a simple file browser when you want to load up games. So it's real simple. One thing on games, especially for the Sega Mega Drive, the SMD, or the Genesis, whatever you want to call it, I did have to change the ROMs that I found from .bin to .smd. And if you don't know how to do that, or you're trying to figure it out, use Google. You gotta just type in the different file extension. So figure out how to do that through Google. And you'll be fine. SNES worked fine, Game Boy Advance worked fine, Game Boy Color worked fine. So music, loading up with music, I haven't really figured out, so I won't go into that. It does have an MP3 player built in, but it's junk. You can't make playlists or anything like that, so it's easier to do that. It does have a picture viewer, but you can't zoom in or anything like that. One thing I didn't go into when I'm just remembering now, is how to adjust the volume on your games. So we'll go into Mega Man and Bass. I love Mega Man. It's an amazing series. Hit the menu button or the power button, and then hit up on the D-pad, and it'll raise up your volume. So we'll scroll over to play. It's a lot louder. Now we'll turn it back down. You can turn the speakers off through the menu, and then it'll only play through the headphone jack. Headphones, fantastic. The built-in speakers are just fine for the 16-bit soundtracks and the 8-bit soundtracks and all that stuff. It's perfectly fine for those things. Final thoughts. It is a great deal. And the battery lasts for about 3 hours of solid gaming, and then you have to charge it. You can charge from a wall and play at the same time. You can't charge from your computer and do the same thing. But the battery lasts 3 hours of solid gameplay, even more when you're playing videos where you're not using the D-pad, and even more when you're using headphones. So I'd say maybe 4 hours total if you're doing random things. The screen will turn off after a certain amount of time. You can set the time through the setup options. It has an alarm clock, which I don't really care about. It has a clock, the date, all that stuff. So that's basically it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later, YouTube. Bye.